In this video, I'm going to show you step by step on how to replace your garage door springs. I'm going to put a link in the description for the springs I use. If you want to go to your big box store like Menards or Home Depot, those springs are just kind of cheaper residential springs. They're going to last for maybe 12,000 cycles. The springs that I put in the description, they're about 16,000 cycle plus. So they're a little more heavy duty. They cost just a little bit more, but they're going to last you a lot longer. So the first thing we need to do is safely work on this garage door. And that means we need to unplug the garage door opener or at least disengage it. Your spring kit will come with two 1/2 inch diameter rods. That's to tighten up the springs. And then if you notice on your springs, one is going to be red, one is going to be black. Because your springs are lefts and rights. You can't use two of the identical springs on two sides. Taking a look at the garage door from the inside, if we come up here to the right side, you'll notice the end of that spring is black. If we come over here to this side, the end of this spring is going to be red. So you just want to make sure you put the springs on the right side. Over here to the left, you can see that that is the spring that is broken. We'll come over here to the right, you can see that that spring is still intact. Now just because one spring broke, it always means to me that I'm going to replace both. You don't want to spend all this time and effort replacing one spring, because then the other side is probably going to break a month or two later. Now we need to relieve all the tension in the good spring. Obviously all the tension is out of the spring that broke, so the garage door is still tensioned, so we need to loosen the good spring. I'll show you up close what we need to do. There's two screws right here. And you can use a 7/16 socket, or you can use a crescent wrench or pliers or whatever you need to loosen those up. And then you have all these holes here where your 1/2 inch bars are going to go into. And then you're going to let the tension go about 1/4 of a turn at a time. And that's why you have two of those tension bars. Once one goes down, you'll insert the other one and keep going. There's about 29 rotations to get this loosened up. Just don't loosen these two screws until you have your tension bars inserted. Insert your tension bar into one of these pockets. And now we need to loosen these two screws. You don't want to loosen the two screws first. You must have this tension bar in place first, then loosen the screws. So I've got this hard to reach one back here loose. Now I'm going to loosen this one. And I'm just going to kind of push in with the tension bar, let it come down. It's going to force itself against the garage door. Now I'm going to take the next one, do the same thing. Just make sure that you're pushing in. You don't want these rods to slip out. As you can see right there, there's no more tension on that spring, so that part is complete. Now up here where the springs are attached to the bracket, you're going to have two bolts. They're going to be different sizes according to the garage door size. We're going to go ahead and remove these two bolts. This one right here, this one right here. Now with the two bolts removed, you have the two springs separate from each other. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the drums on the end and slide the springs off. Right here is the broken spring. We still need to loosen up these two screws so this will slide off. On the cable wheel on the end, you also have two screws. You can use your 7/16 socket or wrench. You just need to loosen these up. And then we're going to go ahead and pull the cable out. And just let the cable hang down on the door. Another tip, you'll also notice that on this cable wheel, you see how it's red? That will also match the red on the springs. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Notice how this wheel is black on the end? That's going to match the black on the spring. Go ahead and remove the cable. Now we need to knock this bar through this side of this carrier, and then we can slide the spring off. So you might need like a rubber mallet to tap it out to the other side. So once you have your bar tapped through one side, you can pull off your cable guide. And then you can slide off your spring. And now you're going to go ahead and slide on your new spring. Make sure you have the correct one on the right side. We're going to install the cable guide. If your spring is on, the cable guide is on, you're going to slide the tube back through this bearing. Don't slide it too far because you don't want to pull it out from the other side. But now we're going to go ahead and go to the other side and do the exact same thing. So now you just want to make sure that your bar is centered. So measure from here to here. I have 2 inches on this side and 2 inches on the other side, so I know the bar is centered. So at this point, I just want to show you what it looks like from left to right. We have our cable pulley installed. You have the color red. We have our new spring sitting there. It's red on the end. We come down this way. That's our other new spring. That's the black end. And we have our cable guide. Next thing we need to do is bolt the 2 springs together in the middle. Now I have the bolts back in place, they're just snug. I want to measure along the bar and make sure it's straight. Now from the wall to the center of the bar is 3 1/4 inches. I just want to make sure it's the exact same all the way down. Once we know that bar is straight, we can go ahead and tighten these 2 bolts up. So now I have the cable guide, I have the cable installed, and I have a vice grip up there, making sure nothing rotates. I'll bring the camera in up close so you can see what it looks like. You can see I have the cable guide right here. The cable is going up and over. You want to make sure the cable is on the back side, and you want to make sure the cable is straight. And then once the cable is straight, you can see that this isn't resting up against this bearing carrier. It's a ways, maybe about an inch, 1 1/4 off. So you just want to make sure the cable is straight up and down. You want to make sure that it's snug, and then vice grip it in place so this does not rotate. So when we set the other side, the tension will be the same. You just want this slightly snug. You don't want it real tight. This side done, the cable's nice and straight. It's a little bit taut. We have both screws tightened up. We have the black pulley down here. We have the cable going up and over the top of the pulley. If we come down here, we have the black spring. Just to put a vice grip somewhere on your garage door track so that the garage door doesn't lift up as we start tensioning the springs. Well, I like to turn these set screws in until they touch and then back them off about 1/4 turn. That way you're not tightening up a lot of thread. And now I just rotate the spring by hand. Now I'm going to start right here, and that's going to give me 29 1/4 turns. And then we're going to tighten up these screws while we hold it in place. There's 1, 2, 3. All right, so once you have your 29 rotations on this spring, it is extremely tight. Make sure you hold this bar into place and get this tightened up as soon as possible. Here we want these set screws Not touching, but very close, so we don't have to turn them so much. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, once you got your 29 quarter rotations, tighten up the 2 set screws, and then we're going to remove the vice grips. Grips holding the door down. And now I've got my knee holding the door down. So if I let go, the door should raise up. This door is almost all the way up, and it should only be about halfway, so we're going to have to take about 1 to 2 quarter turns out of the springs. The springs just have a hair too much tension. So put your vice grips back on the door, and we're going to take a little bit of tension out of each spring. So what we have to do is insert our torque bar. We're going to loosen up these 2 set screws, and I'm going to turn the tension the opposite way and take out 2 quarter turns. Now you know your spring tension is right when your door floats up about halfway. So this is all set. We just need to re-engage the garage door opener. Now depending on what style of garage door opener you have, this one is locked in place. Now that it's unlocked, as soon as the door comes up, it should click into place. All right, so if you have your springs tensioned correctly, then your garage door should work it just fine. So one of the more important tips when you're tensioning the springs, the average 7x16 door is about 29 quarter rotations. As you can see, when I first let go of the vice grips, the door went all the way up. That's a problem. You want your door to float up off the floor about 4 feet high and stop. When you have no tension on your door at all, I'm saying your garage door is disengaged, you have no vice grips on it. You don't want the garage door sitting on the floor, and you don't want it so tensioned that it lifts all the way up. Your garage door opener is really going to stress. Sometimes it won't open it, sometimes it won't close it. So with no tension on the door, garage door opener disengaged, the bottom of your garage door should float up about 4 feet high and just sit there. Then you know the tension is perfect. If it goes too high, you need to take a little tension out. If it doesn't lift the door, you need to put a little tension in. And go about a quarter to a half a turn at a time. Just tighten it back up and retest it. Usually it takes 2 or 3 tries to get it perfect. Hope this video was helpful for everyone, and thanks for watching.